Have you ever felt your heart beating so fast, it feels like it might burst out of your chest? Now imagine feeling this way regularly, but everyone around you dismisses it as just old age or being dramatic. This is the reality for millions of elderly individuals worldwide, silently suffering from anxiety that goes unrecognized, untreated, and often dismissed by the very people who should be offering support. Anxiety in older adults isn't just uncomfortable, it's potentially devastating to their quality of life. Yet it remains one of the most overlooked health issues in our aging population. What makes this situation particularly heartbreaking is that much of this suffering happens right inside the home, where seniors should feel safest and most understood. The misconceptions about anxiety in the elderly create a perfect storm of neglect, with family members, caregivers, and sometimes even healthcare professionals mistaking anxiety symptoms for normal aging, dementia, or physical ailments. This misunderstanding leads to a dangerous cycle where the elderly person's very real mental health struggles are invalidated, potentially worsening their condition and leading to isolation, depression, and a significant decline in overall health. The sad truth is that anxiety disorders affect up to 20% of older adults, yet fewer than 1/3 receive proper treatment. This isn't just a statistic. It represents millions of grandparents, parents, aunts, uncles, and friends suffering in silence while those around them fail to recognize the signs. Many older adults grew up in generations where mental health wasn't discussed openly, adding another layer of complexity to an already challenging situation. They may lack the vocabulary to express what they're experiencing or may feel shame about admitting to psychological distress. In today's video, we're going to explore this critical issue in depth, looking at why anxiety in the elderly is so frequently misunderstood, the unique ways it manifests in older populations, and most importantly, how we can do. Whether you're a family member, caregiver, healthcare professional, or an older adult yourself, this information could be the key to breaking the cycle of misunderstanding and opening the door to proper care and support. The invisible nature of anxiety makes it easy to overlook, but its effects are very real and often devastating for the elderly. Beyond the emotional distress, untreated anxiety in seniors has been linked to increased risk of cardiovascular problems, weakened immune function, cognitive decline, and even higher mortality rates. This isn't just about comfort, it's about health, dignity, and quality of life. Throughout this video, we'll share insights from geriatric mental health experts, real-life stories that illustrate the human cost of this widespread problem, and practical, compassionate approaches to recognizing and addressing anxiety in older. Most importantly, we'll discuss how to create an environment where seniors feel safe expressing their mental health concerns without fear of dismissal or judgment. Thank you for joining me today for this important conversation about anxiety in the elderly, a topic that deserves far more attention than it currently receives. I'm truly grateful that you've chosen to spend your time learning about an issue that affects so many lives yet remains largely hidden from public awareness. Your presence here speaks volumes about your compassion and your desire to understand the challenges faced by the older adults in your life or community. Whether you're watching because you have an elderly parent, grandparent, or friend whose behavior has concerned you, or whether you're a senior yourself seeking validation for your experiences, I want you to know that your interest in this subject is already a significant step toward positive change. The very fact that you're dedicating time to understanding anxiety in older adults puts you ahead of many who simply attribute changes in behavior to just getting old. That kind of dismissive attitude is exactly what we need to combat. And by being here, you're already part of the solution. Throughout this video, I promise to address this sensitive topic with the respect, thoroughness, and nuance it deserves. My goal is not just to inform but to transform how we think about mental health in our elderly population. Together, we can work toward a world where no senior has to suffer in silence or have their very real psychological distress invalidated by those around them. I believe that with greater awareness and the right tools, we can all become better advocates for the mental well-being of the older adults in our lives. So again, thank you for being here and for your willingness to learn and grow in your understanding of this critical issue. Before we dive deeper into the specifics of anxiety in older adults, I want to clarify what we're discussing today and why it matters so much. We're exploring a widespread misconception that has serious consequences: the tendency to overlook, dismiss, or misidentify anxiety symptoms in the elderly. This isn't just an academic discussion. It's about real people suffering unnecessarily because those around them don't recognize what's happening. What makes this topic particularly important is that anxiety is highly treatable at any age. When properly identified and addressed, even seniors with long-standing anxiety can experience significant improvement in their quality of life. The tragedy lies in how often this treatable condition goes unrecognized, leaving older adults to struggle alone with symptoms that could be alleviated. Throughout our discussion, we'll be focusing on anxiety that exceeds normal worries, persistent, excessive fear or concern that interferes with daily activities and well-being. While everyone experiences anxiety occasionally, we're talking about anxiety that has become problematic and disruptive, yet is being misattributed to age, personality, or physical illness. This is not about pathologizing normal emotions or suggesting that every worried senior has a disorder. Rather, it's about recognizing when anxiety has crossed the line into a condition that deserves proper attention and care. It's also important to understand that anxiety in older adults often looks different than it does in younger people. The manifestations can be unique, which contributes to the frequency with which it's missed or misdiagnosed. By the end of this video, you'll have a clearer understanding of how anxiety typically presents in the elderly, why it's so often overlooked, and most importantly, what can be done to address it. My hope is that this knowledge will empower you to be more observant, more compassionate, and more effective in supporting the mental health of the older adults in your life. Now that we understand the importance of this topic, let's explore the key aspects of anxiety in the elderly that everyone should know. First, anxiety disorders are among the most common mental health conditions in older adults, affecting approximately 10–20% of seniors. Despite this prevalence, they are also among the most underdiagnosed and undertreated conditions in this age group. This discrepancy represents a significant gap in care that needs urgent attention. Second, anxiety in the elderly often manifests differently than in younger adults. While younger people might describe feeling anxious or worried, older adults more frequently complain about physical symptoms. They may talk about stomach problems, headaches, insomnia, or fatigue, without recognizing these as potential symptoms of anxiety. This physical presentation often leads to extensive medical testing, while the underlying anxiety goes untreated. Third, there's a dangerous overlap between anxiety symptoms and the early signs of dementia, which can lead to misdiagnosis in either direction. Memory problems, confusion, agitation, and withdrawal can be symptoms of either condition, and distinguishing between them requires careful assessment by healthcare providers familiar with geriatric mental health. Unfortunately, many primary care physicians lack specialized training in this area. Fourth, life transitions common in older age can trigger or exacerbate anxiety. Retirement, loss of loved ones, decreased mobility, chronic illness, and changes in living situations can all contribute to increased anxiety. These transitions are often viewed as inevitable aspects of aging rather than potential triggers for mental health concerns that deserve attention. Fifth, there's a generational stigma around mental health that makes many older adults reluctant to discuss psychological symptoms. Many seniors grew up in eras when mental health issues were heavily stigmatized and rarely discussed openly. They may lack the vocabulary to express their feelings or may fear being perceived as crazy or weak if they admit to psychological distress. Sixth, anxiety in the elderly is often comorbid with depression, making the clinical picture more complex. The presence of both conditions can complicate diagnosis and treatment, especially when physical symptoms predominate the presentation. Seventh, untreated anxiety has serious consequences for older adults, including increased risk of physical health problems, cognitive decline, reduced quality of life, social isolation, and higher mortality rates. It's not merely a matter of comfort, but a significant health concern with far-reaching implications. Eighth, family dynamics often play a crucial role in either facilitating or hindering proper identification and treatment of anxiety in seniors. Family members' attitudes toward mental health, their understanding of normal aging, and their willingness to advocate for appropriate care can dramatically affect outcome. Ninth, treatment approaches may need to be modified for older adults, considering factors like medication interactions, cognitive status, and physical health. Both pharmacological and non-pharmacological interventions can be effective, but they often need to be tailored specifically for the geriatric population. Finally, the healthcare system itself sometimes creates barriers to proper mental health care for seniors. Limited geriatric mental health specialists, inadequate insurance coverage, and fragmented care models can all contribute to the undertreatment of anxiety in this population. Anxiety manifests in the elderly in ways that often go unrecognized because they don't fit the typical image of an anxious person. Instead of obvious worry or panic, an older adult with anxiety might become irritable, demanding, or overly controlling about their environment. They might develop seemingly irrational fears about specific situations, refusing to leave their home, becoming paranoid about financial matters, or developing excessive concerns about their health that seem disproportionate. These behaviors are frequently attributed to personality changes, stubbornness, or cognitive decline, rather than recognized as anxiety symptoms. One of the most common manifestations is an increase in physical complaints without clear medical causes. An elderly person suffering from anxiety might make frequent doctor appointments for dizziness, chest pain, digestive issues, or sleep problems. After multiple tests come back normal, healthcare providers and family members might begin to dismiss these complaints, attention-seeking or hypochondria, when in fact they represent the physical manifestation of significant anxiety. Cognitive symptoms can be particularly confusing. Anxiety can cause difficulties with concentration, memory, and decision-making that mimic early dementia. This confusion between anxiety and dementia is one of the most problematic areas of misdiagnosis, sometimes leading to inappropriate treatment or missing an opportunity for intervention when symptoms are actually due to a treatable anxiety disorder. Behavioral changes often include avoidance patterns that might seem like a natural reduction in activities due to aging. An anxious elder might progressively narrow their world, refusing to drive, declining social invitations, avoiding new situations, or becoming dependent on a single family member. These changes might be gradual enough that family members adjust to them without questioning whether they represent a treatable condition rather than inevitable decline. The relationship between anxiety and physical health becomes particularly complex in older adults. Chronic medical conditions can trigger or worsen anxiety, while anxiety itself can exacerbate physical symptoms and interfere with medical treatment. This bidirectional relationship creates a vicious cycle that's difficult to break without addressing both the physical and psychological components. Sleep disturbances deserve special attention, as they're both a common symptom of anxiety and a factor that can worsen anxiety when present. Many families and even healthcare providers accept poor sleep as a normal part of aging, missing an important clue to underlying anxiety disorders. Social withdrawal is another warning sign that's often misinterpreted. When an elderly person who was previously engaged begins to decline invitations or shows less interest in favorite activity, this might be viewed as a natural part of slowing down with age. In reality, it could indicate social anxiety or depression that warrants intervention. Perhaps most concerning is the way anxiety can manifest as resistance to care. An anxious elder might refuse help, medications, or suggested lifestyle changes not out of stubbornness, but because these changes trigger increased anxiety. Without recognizing the underlying anxiety driving this resistance, families and caregivers might become frustrated and conflict may ensue, further worsening the elderly person's mental state. I need to pause here and ask you something important. What time of day does anxiety usually hit the hardest for the elderly people in your life? You know, each person feels anxiety uniquely, and sharing this experience can be the first step to understanding it better. I know you may have never talked about this with anyone. Maybe you think no one would understand or that these observations aren't important, but I want you to know that here, in this space, your experience matters deeply. Leave us a comment below completing the sentence. I've noticed anxiety in elderly people usually appears when your insight in sharing might be exactly what another person needs to read today to recognize anxiety symptoms in their loved one and feel less alone in dealing with this challenge. And in upcoming videos, we'll address specifically those moments you share. This is a community of mutual support, where every observation you share is welcomed with respect and understanding. Often, family members notice patterns like increased agitation in a phenomenon sometimes called sundowning, heightened anxiety around medical appointments, or increased worry after watching the news. These patterns can provide important clues about triggers and potential management strategy. By sharing what you've observed, you're not only helping others recognize similar patterns, but also contributing to a broader understanding of how anxiety manifests in our older population. Remember, you don't need to be a healthcare professional to make valuable observations about the mental health of the elderly people in your life. Sometimes family members and friends are actually in the best position to notice subtle changes that might not be apparent during brief medical. Your perspective matters, and sharing it could help someone else connect the dots in their own situation. So please, take a moment to reflect on what you've noticed and share your observations in the comments below. Your contribution could make a real difference in someone else's journey toward understanding and addressing anxiety in their elderly loved one. Now, let's explore some practical approaches to supporting elderly individuals experiencing anxiety, starting with recognition and validation. The first step in helping is simply acknowledging that anxiety in older adults is real, significant, and worthy of attention. Rather than dismissing concerns as just part of getting old, or suggesting they stop worrying so much, take their distress seriously. Validation doesn't mean you have to agree with everyone, but it does mean acknowledging the real feelings behind them. Phrases like, "I can see this is really bothering," or "that sounds difficult to deal with," can go a long way toward making an anxious elder feel heard and understood. Communication approaches need careful consideration when addressing anxiety in older adults. Choose calm, quiet moments for important conversations, and be mindful of potential sensory issues like hearing loss that might affect communication. Use clear, simple language without being condescending, and avoid overwhelming them with too much information at once. Be patient and give them time to express themselves fully without interruption. Many elderly individuals respond well to a gentle, unhurried approach. Creating environmental supports can significantly reduce anxiety triggers. Establish predictable routines that provide a sense of security and control. Keep living spaces well lit to reduce confusion and fearfulness, especially at night when anxiety often worsens. Minimize clutter and fall hazards to reduce fears about safety. Consider labeling items clearly if memory issues are contributing to anxiety. Even small environmental adjustments can make a substantial difference in day-to-day anxiety level. Physical activity deserves special attention as a powerful anti-anxiety intervention. Regular, appropriate exercise has been shown to reduce anxiety symptoms across all age groups, including the elderly. This doesn't necessarily mean intensive workout. Gentle walking, chair yoga, tai chi, or water exercises can all be beneficial depending on one's capability. The key is consistency and finding activities that are enjoyable rather than. Social connection is another crucial element in anxiety management. Isolation often worsens anxiety, while meaningful social interactions can provide distraction, purpose, and emotional support. Encourage participation in age-appropriate social activities, whether that's a senior center program, a religious community, volunteer work, or regular family gathering. Even for seniors with mobility limitations, technology can facilitate social connections through video calls with friends and family. Mindfulness and relaxation techniques can be adapted for older adults with excellent results. Simple breathing exercises, guided imagery, progressive muscle relaxation, or gentle mindfulness practices can help manage anxiety symptoms. Many seniors find these approaches particularly appealing because they provide concrete tools for self-regulation without medication. Audio recordings or senior-specific relaxation programs can make these techniques more accessible. Nutrition and sleep hygiene often get overlooked, but play significant roles in anxiety management. Limiting caffeine and alcohol, maintaining regular mealtimes, and ensuring adequate hydration can all help stabilize mood and reduce anxiety symptoms. Similarly, establishing consistent sleep routines, creating a comfortable sleep environment, and addressing issues like pain or frequent urination that might disrupt sleep can improve both sleep quality and anxiety levels. Professional support is often necessary, particularly for more severe anxiety. This might include geriatric psychiatrists, psychologists with experience in older adult care, or therapists specializing in cognitive behavioral therapy for anxiety. While some seniors may initially resist mental health treatment due to stigma, framing it as another aspect of healthcare, just like seeing a cardiologist for heart issues, can help overcome this resistance. Medication considerations require special attention in the elderly population. Pharmacological approaches to anxiety must be carefully managed due to age-related changes in metabolism, potential interactions with other medications, and increased sensitivity to side effects. This doesn't mean medications should be avoided entirely, but rather that they should be prescribed and monitored by healthcare providers with geriatric expertise, typically starting at lower doses than would be used for younger adults. Finally, caregiver support and education are essential components of managing anxiety in the elderly. Caregivers who understand anxiety, its symptoms, triggers, and management strategies, are better equipped to provide appropriate support. Additionally, caregivers need support for themselves, as caring for an anxious older adult can be emotionally and physically taxing. Support groups, respite care, and educational resources for caregivers are invaluable in maintaining a healthy care environment. Let's delve deeper into some specific aspects of anxiety in the elderly that deserve special attention. First, the relationship between anxiety and cognitive function is particularly important to understand. Anxiety can significantly impair cognitive performance in older adults, causing problems with memory, concentration, and decision-making that might be mistaken for dementia. This phenomenon, sometimes called pseudo-dementia, occurs when anxiety and depression create cognitive symptoms that mimic neurodegenerative conditions. The good news is that when the underlying anxiety is treated, these cognitive symptoms often improve substantially, unlike true dementia, which is progressive. This highlights the critical importance of proper assessment before assuming cognitive changes are due to irreversible neurological decline. Another crucial aspect is the relationship between anxiety and falls in the elderly. Anxiety can increase fall risk through several mechanisms: muscle tension affecting gait and balance, hyperventilation causing dizziness, avoidance behaviors leading to physical deconditioning, or even medication side effects if the anxiety is being treated pharmaceutically. Falls represent one of the most serious health risks for older adults, with potential consequences including fractures, hospitalization, loss of independence, and even death. Recognizing and treating anxiety can be an important component of fall prevention programs. The experience of chronic pain, extremely common in older adults, has a complex bidirectional relationship with anxiety. Pain naturally triggers anxiety responses, while anxiety lowers pain thresholds and increases pain perception. This creates a vicious cycle that can be difficult to break without addressing both components simultaneously. Integrated approaches that target both pain management and anxiety reduction tend to be most effective. Anxiety in the context of serious or terminal illness presents special challenges. Many elderly individuals face life-limiting conditions that naturally provoke anxiety about suffering, dependency, or mortality. This existential anxiety is often overlooked or considered an inevitable aspect of illness, rather than something that be addressed therapeutically. In reality, appropriate psychological support can significantly improve quality of life, even in the context of serious illness. The phenomenon of late-life anxiety that emerges for the first time in older age often has different characteristics than anxiety disorders that have been present throughout life. Late-onset anxiety frequently relates to the specific challenges and losses associated with aging, rather than representing a continuation of long-standing patterns. This distinction has implications for both assessment and treatment approaches. Financial anxiety deserves particular mention, as it affects many older adults living on fixed incomes during times of economic uncertainty. Fears about outliving savings, covering healthcare costs, or becoming a burden to family members can create significant and persistent anxiety that affects daily functioning and decision-making. This form of anxiety may require both practical financial planning assistance and emotional support. Medication-induced anxiety is surprisingly common in the elderly population. Many commonly prescribed medications can cause anxiety as a side effect, including certain blood pressure medications, steroids, thyroid supplements, respiratory drugs, and some over-the-counter medications containing caffeine or other stimulants. A thorough medication review should be part of any anxiety assessment in older adults. Anxiety in elderly patients with sensory impairments requires special consideration. Hearing and vision loss can significantly increase anxiety by reducing environmental awareness and making social interactions more challenging. Appropriate hearing and vision interventions, not just medical treatments, but also environmental accommodations and communication strategy, can substantially reduce anxiety related to sensory impairments. The most important insight about anxiety in the elderly, the one I want everyone watching to truly understand, is that it is not an inevitable part of aging. This fundamental misconception lies at the heart of why so many older adults suffer unnecessarily from untreated anxiety. There is nothing about the aging process itself that should cause pathological anxiety. While normal concerns about health, independence, and mortality are natural, debilitating anxiety that interferes with daily life and well-being is not something we should accept as just part of getting old. This distinction is crucial because when we attribute anxiety symptoms to normal aging, we effectively close the door to intervention. The revelation here is twofold. First, that anxiety disorders in the elderly are highly treatable, with success rates comparable to those seen in younger populations when appropriate interventions are provided. And second, that quality of life can improve dramatically at any age when anxiety is properly addressed. Many families and even healthcare providers operate under the mistaken belief that significant personality changes, including increased fearfulness, worry, or irritability, are simply inevitable aspects of growing older. This fatalistic view not only denies seniors access to effective treatment, but also robs them of potential years of improved well-being. Another critical aspect of this revelation is understanding that anxiety symptoms in older adults often mask as physical or cognitive changes, leading to extensive medical testing and treatments that fail to address the underlying psychological distress. This medicalization of anxiety not only misses the true cause, but can actually compound the problem through side effects, healthcare costs, increasing the elder's focus on physical symptoms. Perhaps most powerfully, when we recognize that anxiety is not an inevitable part of aging, we open the door to a more hopeful and empowered approach to life. Rather than viewing the elder years through a lens of inevitable decline and distress, we can see them as a time when emotional well-being remains important and achievable. This perspective shift benefits not only the older adults themselves but also their family and caregivers, who gain a more positive framework for understanding and supporting their elderly loved ones. The implications of this understanding are far-reaching, potentially transforming how we approach elder care at both individual and societal levels. When we stop dismissing psychological distress as inevitable, we create space for more compassionate, effective approaches to supporting our aging population. Beyond what we've already discussed, there are several important considerations that enhance our understanding of anxiety in the elderly. Cultural factors significantly influence how anxiety is expressed and interpreted in older adults. In some cultures, psychological distress is primarily expressed through physical symptoms, making anxiety even more likely to be missed or misattributed. Cultural attitudes toward aging, mental health, and family responsibility also shape how anxiety is addressed or not addressed within families and communities. Healthcare providers need cultural competence to effectively recognize and treat anxiety across diverse elderly populations. Gender differences also play a role in how anxiety presents and is treated in older adults. Older women are diagnosed with anxiety disorders more frequently than older men, but this may partly reflect diagnostic bias and differences in help-seeking behavior rather than true prevalence differences. Older men may be less likely to report psychological symptoms due to generational norms around masculinity, potentially leading to underdiagnosis. These gender disparities can affect everything from symptom recognition to treatment access. The role of religion and spirituality deserves attention, as these can serve as either protective factors or sources of anxiety for older adults. For many seniors, religious faith provides comfort, meaning, and social connection that buffer against anxiety. For others, religious beliefs involving guilt, punishment, or strict moral codes might actually exacerbate anxiety. Sensitivity to the role of spirituality in an individual's life is important when addressing anxiety in elderly populations. Technology-related anxiety has emerged as an increasingly relevant issue for today's seniors, as essential services and social connections move online. Older adults who lack digital literacy may experience significant anxiety about being left behind or unable to manage important aspects of daily life. This digital anxiety can contribute to feelings of incompetence, dependency, and isolation that exacerbate overall anxiety levels. The impact of early life trauma on late life anxiety is another area deserving attention. Research suggests that traumatic experiences, even those occurring decades earlier, can affect mental health throughout life and sometimes emerge or resurface in late life when coping resources are strained by age-related changes and losses. Trauma-informed approaches to geriatric mental health care are increasingly recognized as important for effective treatment. Caregiver anxiety often develops in parallel with the elderly person's anxiety, creating a dynamic where each person's distress amplifies the others. Family members caring for anxious elderly relatives may develop their own anxiety about caregiving responsibilities, the elder's well-being, or anticipatory grief. This mutual anxiety cycle requires interventions that address both the elder's needs and the caregiver's emotional well-being. Finally, public policy considerations affect anxiety treatment access for older adults. Insurance coverage for mental health services, availability of geriatric mental health specialists, transportation to appointments, and integration of mental health care into primary care all influence whether elderly individuals with anxiety receive appropriate treatment. Advocacy for improved mental health services for the aging population remains an important aspect of addressing this issue at a systemic level. If you identified with what we talked about today and you're looking for natural ways to calm your mind and live with more peace, our channel is a safe space created especially for you. Each week we share simple and effective techniques that have helped thousands of people recover their inner peace. We're together on this journey, and every step you take toward wellness matters. Click the subscribe button below and activate notifications to receive our videos as soon as they're published. Remember, you don't need to face anxiety alone, and small changes can make a big difference in your quality of life. Our upcoming videos will explore specific anxiety management techniques tailored for older adults and their caregivers, including modified mindfulness practices, gentle movement therapy, and communication strategies that foster understanding and support. We'll also be featuring interviews with geriatric mental health specialists who will share their expertise and answer common questions about anxiety. These resources are designed to be practical, accessible, and respectful of the unique challenges faced by older adults and those who care for them. By subscribing, you'll join a community of compassionate individuals committed to better understanding and addressing anxiety across the lifespan. Many of our subscribers are either seniors themselves, looking for support, or family members and caregivers seeking to better help their loved one. The insights and experiences shared within this community provide not only practical strategy, but also the emotional support that comes from knowing you're not alone in your challenges. Our approach is always to provide evidence-based information, while honoring the wisdom and dignity of older adults. We believe that anxiety management in the elderly should be collaborative rather than prescriptive, building on strengths and preferences that have developed throughout a lifetime. The techniques and perspectives we share reflect this philosophy of respectful partnership in mental health care. So join us on this journey toward better understanding and managing anxiety in the later years of life. With the right knowledge, support, and tools, significant improvement is possible at any age. Your subscription helps us reach more people with this important message and continue creating content that makes a difference in real lives. Before we end today, I want to emphasize how much your engagement helps spread awareness about this important issue. If you found value in this discussion, please consider liking this video and sharing it with others who might benefit. Perhaps family members caring for elderly relatives, healthcare professionals, or seniors themselves looking for validation of their experiences. Your simple act of sharing could be the key that unlocks understanding and proper support for someone struggling with unrecognized anxiety. The comments section below is a valuable resource for our community, so please share your thoughts, questions, or experiences related to anxiety in the elderly. Your contribution might provide insight or comfort to others facing similar challenges. Every comment also helps our content reach more people who need this information, as engagement signals to the platform that this topic matters. If you have specific questions about anxiety in older adults that weren't addressed in today's video, please leave them in the comments. Your questions will help shape future content, ensuring we're addressing the real concerns and needs of our community. Remember, the conversation about mental health in the elderly is one that needs to continue beyond this video. By engaging with this content and sharing it with others, you're helping to break down the stigma and misconceptions that prevent proper recognition and treatment of anxiety in the older population. Every like, share, and comment contributes to greater awareness and better outcomes for elderly individuals suffering from anxiety. Thank you for being part of this important conversation, and for your commitment to improving understanding of mental health issues affecting older adults. Together, we can work toward a world where anxiety in the elderly is recognized, validated, and properly addressed, no matter where it occurs. As we come to the close of our discussion, I want to leave you with a message of hope and encouragement. While we've explored many challenging aspects of anxiety in the elderly, the most important takeaway is that improvement is possible at any age. No one should accept severe anxiety as an inevitable part of growing older, and with proper recognition and support, many older adults experience significant relief from anxiety symptoms that may have troubled them. Remember that each small step toward understanding and addressing anxiety in an elderly loved one, or in yourself, if you're a senior watching this video, makes a meaningful difference. Simply recognizing anxiety symptoms for what they are, rather than dismissing them as inevitable aspects of aging, is a powerful first step that opens the door to appropriate support and treatment. If you're caring for an elderly person experiencing anxiety, know that your compassionate presence and willingness to validate their feelings matters enormously. You don't have to have all the answers or solve all their problems. Sometimes just listening without dismissing or minimizing their concerns provides significant. And if you're an older adult dealing with anxiety yourself, please know that you deserve support and understanding. Your feelings are valid, your well-being matters, and help is available. It's never too late to experience improvement in your quality of life. I believe deeply in the resilience of the human spirit at every stage of life. The capacity for growth, healing, and positive change doesn't diminish with age. With the right support and resources, elderly individuals can develop new coping skills, find relief from anxiety symptoms, and experience greater peace and satisfaction in their later years. Thank you for joining me for this important conversation. Until next time, take care of yourself and the older adults in your life with compassion, patience, and hope.